Present Finance Committee. We have a quorum. The meeting is called to order.
The Capital Improvement Committee, we have 3 members present. We have a quorum. The meeting is called to order.
We could start right in with the items over 50,000. If we could, wasn't Don just here?
He's right there. He's right here.
If we could start with the tree stump removal item.
That's Mike Burn for that. Just wanted to talk to him about the Capital Improvement Committee about this actually much higher request and what he wants to do with his tree stump removal and plantings. I'll defer to Michael.
She's saying thank you.
Okay, are you going to ask me questions or do you want me to give you an update on?
Sure, I'll ask you some questions.
All right.
Mike, I'm concerned that we're going into tree stump removal when we haven't got all the trees down yet. I drive down Maple Street and I see some 60-footers and the branches are hanging over the road. I'm very concerned that they've been like that for a few years. I'm concerned that a bad storm, somebody gets one knocked down, lands on their car and kills them. And I'm pretty sure that we have trees throughout the town that are in the same situation. Some may be right on the edge of the property line, but bottom line, I believe if the trees are over our property, we can take care of the problem. Am I correct?
Yes, if they're over the town property line, yeah, we can take some of the dead branches off, but haven't even completely got all of the dead trees down.
Well, that's my concern.
Right.
I'm not concerned about the stumps. They're not going to fall out of the sky and hurt anybody. I would rather take care of the problems that are in the sky and get that remediated first.
Everything had its order in my mind. I was going to do all the dead tree removal. Wherever we were working, if there was a dead tree with branches on the side of it, we took the branches. We didn't selectively go out looking for branches.
I know, I understand.
Okay, but anyway, yes, there are still trees out there, but there are a lot of them, excuse me, that are on private property. And
Is the request for the $200,000 or $50,000?
It was for 200. We have modified it to 50,000.
So it's a
So that's what
$50,000
we're
item.
yeah, that's what we're presenting to you, Mike. We cut your, I think you know,
Right.
dropped it down to 50,000.
So what's included in the 50,000?
the stump grinding and tree planting, but I don't think 50,000 is going to even get to too much tree planting.
So that's, I think, where we
Right.
were questioning things was where the number had been cut down to 50,000. How much was actually going to get done and what was
What was the
more
purpose?
important to,
I think we have to prioritize
Right.
overlooking that. I think the overhead dangerous situations are more important than stumping and planting.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. Get the rest of the dead trees down with the branches that are over the road before we even start doing stumping. I already, last Thursday, I took down another 8 trees. I'm scheduling the guy at the tree company another week, so another day next week.
So are you operating on an allocation from last year right now? Is that the tree
I'm
removal?
working off of my 20,000 budget.
Okay. So I think that when we were talking about it, we were concerned about, okay, so first of all, we're gonna go out and grind stumps, and my first question was, well, how high is the stump above the ground? I mean, if you're leaving it 3 feet, you're not gonna grind it, you're gonna cut it. But the other thing is that, okay, what's the purpose of doing that? And we just took the tree down, we're gonna do tree planting, which kind of, in our right of way, by the way, which almost like seems like I'm creating another job that I'm gonna have to do later on. And at the same time, we got a bunch of trees that still got to come down that we haven't even gotten to yet, which is probably the more important, which is how we got here to begin with.
There are quite a few stumps that are along sidewalks. And if you drove down Maple Street, you'll see a bunch of, it took 72 trees off Maple Street alone.
Yeah.
And there's a stump for every tree. And some of them are right in the sidewalk path where people can trip over them. People can hit them, whatever. And it's happened a few times in the past where people, they don't see the tree anymore, so they hit the stump. It's like, wow.
Did you just say we've taken down 72 trees on Maple Street
Just
alone?
Maple Street.
Really?
Yes. We've taken down roughly 700 trees.
Well, that was my next question. So 700 in total from the beginning when this started
Yeah.
3 or 4 years ago?
Every big white oak in town is gone.
And these 700 trees were on public property or
All
not,
on
not
public
private?
property.
All
That's
public.
it. We didn't go off of public property at all, and we still have more dead ones on public property.
You had to take a guess, how many more dead trees are on public property that have, that,
Every time I go out there, it changes.
another 500,000?
No, oh, no. We're talking more like in the probably 50 range in that area.
Oh, so we're down to
Yeah,
50 trees
yeah,
that, in your
yeah.
opinion, should come down.
Right.
Okay.
But, doing it the way I'm doing it right now, we're basically only doing from a half dozen to 10 trees a day with an aerial truck and a chip
So
truck crew.
One crew can take down 8 trees in one day?
That's why I kind of do it that way.
So what's the discussion tonight on this 50,000? Do we grind stumps, so we take down the remaining 50 trees? Is that the open question?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to have a conversation where we're gonna agree that if we give them $50,000, we're gonna take care of the hazardous conditions as a priority over stump grinding and replacing trees. I mean, that would be my proposal.
I would have to agree too, because safety is the main thing,
And I wish we could give you more money so we could do a better job of it too. You know what I mean?
Would, can I ask a question? Would 50,000 cover the rest of the trees that you need to take down?
It quite possibly could, but now Joe's talking about taking all the dead branches off of all the other trees, which I'm gonna have to drive every road in town and, look up and decide how many branches are gonna come off of each tree and how long it's gonna take,
But to go back to what Kelly was just saying, if you dedicated the 50,000 to taking down the remaining dead trees within the right of way.
Yeah.
Would that finish that up?
I would have to say yes on that.
And if I could, the idea is we continue, rather than dump a whole bunch of money that's going to be a 2 or 3 year project. In May, we can take a look at it again and see where we are, revisit it, and maybe it's another $50,000 in May, and then maybe next year in October, we're sitting here talking about stumps again. But at least we keep the process going. We started the process a few years ago after that terrible infestation of our gypsy moths, and we'll just keep chipping away at it.
That's what I was looking at.
No pun intended.
But that makes sense if Mike feels that
No, I do
we're better
think that's
suited
the
to
way
look
it
at trees
should be
than
done.
stumps. And that's what we should do.
I think that makes sense.
And as we talk about the stumps, I understand what you're saying about, but these stumps would have been adjacent to the sidewalk, not in the sidewalk.
Well, there are, like Hartford Ave, there are a lot of stumps that are along the side of the road. But quite honestly, I wasn't really gonna take them out.
Yep.
I wasn't gonna just waste the money on them,
Okay.
Because they will rot away eventually.
Right. Yeah.
How high are the stumps? How far are they on your cutting?
Well, usually when you hire the stump company, they'll cut them down as low as they can before they even start grinding. So there will be a big chunk of wood left over that they take off, but they take that wood.
I guess that's the question. So the guys who were cutting the trees down, how high are they?
Well, I tried to get them to cut them as low as they could, but some of them didn't want to get their chainsaw all dull in the dirt, so they always kind of jump up a little. If I caught them, I would always say, you cut that a little bit lower, but
No, you don't want to get those chainsaws. Long. This is going to be a problem for cars careening off the road. It's a big problem.
well,
Not nearly as big as the tree.
Not big as a tree.
Yeah.
If
It's a bad choice.
the guy careens off the road, he's done something wrong.
No,
Yeah.
He got sent off the road. Somebody else did something wrong.
yeah,
But it's
well,
bad
if the
choice.
tree was still there, the tree would stop them as well as the stump is going to. But you wouldn't want that to happen to anybody anyway. But-
Okay, so basically what we're saying then is probably ought to dedicate this to taking trees down.
Getting the rest of the dangerous stuff taken care of.
So,
To what Dennis said, I think that's right. We should keep going, taking down the dangerous trees. I would hate for somebody to accuse the town of saying, why didn't you take them all down?
Sure.
We started, can't take them all down in one day, but I think this town has an obligation to take down the dead trees on its property. So I agree. I would really prefer the 50,000 be used as you propose to take down dead trees rather than stump grinding at this time. Anybody else have any comments? I mean, is that,
Yeah, it's Mike's proposal, so obviously he's the expert, so I defer to him, but I think Joe had brought it up at the last meeting. I think it's good that we had the discussion.
does anybody else have any comments or questions?
No, do we have to change any language to the,
So with the finance committee, is there a motion to recommend $50,000 from free cash to continue taking down dead trees on town property?
so moved.
Is there-
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? $50,000 is recommended.
Thanks, Mike, and
Thanks, Mike.
obviously we'll update it next year during the budget process.
All right.
Was
Thank
that
you.
a capital committee vote as well?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's a purpose.
So I'm all set here?
Yes,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Mike.
Mike, thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Make a motion for the capital committee to approve the 50, right?
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Just so you know, Roland, at the last meeting, last finance meeting, Joe asked if we had anybody from finance that wanted to be on capital, and Jennifer volunteered. So we now have Jennifer as on capital as a committee.
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
So is that a 4-0 vote? Yes.
Has she been appointed?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Did we have to vote on it?
You did last.
We did?
Ahead of the game, awesome.
We have the second item over 50 and that's it, right?
We only have the trees, but then Mary said that there's the
Depot Street.
DPWs.
The DPW facility for
Yeah.
both committees.
Let
Okay.
me give you a quick update on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Essentially, over the past, 14 years or so, we've been looking at Don, do you want to come over here with Jesse? Over the shortcomings or inefficiencies that we have with the DPW facility. We did a space needs study back in 2008 or 2009 to try and look at the existing site, what might work as far as construction of additional space. It was expensive, what it would cost then. I forget what the numbers were, but they were big enough that we kind of shelved it after doing that study. Over the last few years, most recently, the last 2 years, we've had to actually rent space to store some of our seasonal equipment, our vac truck, which is about a $600,000 vehicle, 2 street sweepers we've had to store, rent space to store in the winter months because they can't be left out in the elements, or best not to keep them out in the elements. So one of the things that our building commissioner has been doing, and I think he's joined us as well, is keeping an eye on industrial properties or properties that might be appropriate for DPW utilization within the town, rather than looking at incurring the cost of building a new facility, which would be ideal, obviously, but we'd be talking $10 to $20 million depending on what you build. Looking at what's out there, we had a property on Williams Way a year or two ago that we were excited about, thought we were going to be able to bring it forward. We weren't able to, and I'm glad we didn't bring it forward because it would have been premature on our part. I know members of the Board of Selectmen were able to go and tour it, and we were working towards a purchase and sale agreement on that property, and for different reasons it's fell through. Over the last couple of months, we've been looking at a property on Depot Street. We didn't want to bring it forward again prematurely until we knew that we had a purchase and sale agreement in place. At this point in time, the attorneys, the town's attorney and the seller's attorney have agreed on the final details of the purchase and sale agreement. The selectmen did vote in executive session to authorize the chairperson to sign the purchase and sale agreement. And at our last meeting, we discussed it publicly, so it is now a public matter. If the board would like to visit the site before voting on it, absolutely, that would be an option. We know we're bringing forward a request. Building itself is $2.7 million. It's located on Depot Street. I do have a large map of the site that I can share with you. I'm sorry, the audience at home is not going to get a good look at it, but essentially it's 13,000 square feet of garage space. These are some pictures of it, but it's essentially multiple buildings. It's 2 buildings, and what essentially is approved as another 10,000 square feet of office space and garage space to the side of the property. It's been approved by the planning board. It does have utilities stubbed out there, water, septic, and as I said, the plan's been approved. This is the actual plan, I think, that was approved by the planning board. 2 existing buildings, and I can show you some black and whites here of the building, but again, if you'd like to visit the site, we'd be happy to do that. The purchase price is $2.7 million. We are requesting at this point in time $5 million, and that number may be refined.
I'm all set.
Yeah, may be refined. The reason we're asking for $5 million is because what's there now is garage space that would house the bulk of our equipment. I know Roland had asked me for a layout. Don did a layout of how our vehicles would be positioned. Did you get that, Roland?
Yeah, Dave, I sketched something out there. We're sort of in Tetris.
That's okay. I'll just continue on.
But everything we have will fit between our existing facility and that facility. We can get everything out, everything off there.
Right, so the 2.7 million buys the site. The additional 2.3 would be used to build the office space here, so we have office space, and to assist with the transition from Blackstone Street to Depot Street. We don't have a hard number. Tim's been working with a contractor to try and get us a good number on what we'd be looking at for the construction of this site. We also have an independent engineer doing an analysis of the building, structural analysis. They'll come down and let us know if there are any issues with regard to the property. I did ask Roland to come down and take a look at the property, primarily because he has expertise in this field, and let me know if there were any matters there that would make it a dead issue for us. If Roland came down, or with his background, and said the structure is not going to last 2 years or something. So that's the extent. Tim is the building commissioner. Obviously, he's got a lot of experience with these buildings. He's done a thorough evaluation of the building, but we have an individual that's going to be going in there and doing assessment of the building. The issue for us is space. Blackstone Street is simply too small.
It's like 7,300.
7,300 square feet.
Space we have for vehicles.
Space for vehicles, and the office space leaves a lot to be desired. The walls in the
office
existing
space is about 2,500, and we scope to need somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000.
Yeah, the structure itself on Blackstone Street is in rough shape. So we're at a decision: do we put more money into the structure that's there to improve it and look at additional buildings or structures at that site, or do we buy something that's turnkey and ready for us really to move into now? We'd be able to operate out of that as quickly as we purchase it. There's not a whole lot there. Don, do you want to kind of touch on anything?
Yeah, it's a space needs issue with office space and vehicle storage. This purchase would solve our vehicle storage immediately, and with some room for growth. The office space situation, it allows us a site that's got a plan for the office already. I'm glad to see the Tim's involved, because that's pricing that as far as what it will cost for us to build new office. We need to build new office space. Doing it here, doing it at Blackstone Street are the 2 options. This site is probably better. So it's a matter of if we purchase this site and we've effectively, with the additional funds beyond the purchase price, have solved our office problem as well as our vehicle storage problem. So that's,
How much land is there? How many acres?
It's 3 acres.
It's 3 acres.
Yeah, a little over 3 acres. We would keep the Blackstone site, obviously, utilize it. Right now, we're thinking for the mechanics, we'd leave the mechanics there, and we've got a beautiful new salt shed there, so we would continue to operate our winter operations out of that site. It solves a problem. I mean, ideally, we'd build a beautiful new DPW facility. But the cost on that, the engineering, the design, et cetera, would take some time. It would be expensive.
So that location has 2 buildings, one on the left and one, if you look straight on,
Yeah.
but it looks like there's 3 businesses in those 2 buildings. Are they gonna vacate?
Yeah, they will be
All
vacating.
three?
There are leases with 2 businesses, so about 40% of the space would be occupied for 9 months total. One of the businesses would be gone in 3 months, one would be gone in 9 months, and that's all addressed in the purchase and sale agreement. We would assume the
So
rent.
within 9 months, we have the
Yeah,
whole.
There's a lot of language
we have-
that our attorneys went lengths to make sure that we're protected
Are
with
there any-
regard to liability.
Are there any underground storage tanks?
There was an environmental assessment done of the property. There is one above ground.
Is there anything
Diesel
in the
tank.
ground?
There's been an environmental assessment. It's on file with the Board of Health, so we're not aware of any underground storage issues or any environmental issues. So the buildings are heated by oil. We would likely tie into gas right away. Gas is available on the street. There is a small diesel fueling station there. It's above ground. We probably would abandon that. We have a diesel.
And the
at
diesel
our
tank
site.
is above ground?
It's above ground, yeah. So, and I know it's a lot. If the boards would like to go and visit the site, be happy to do that and arrange that, so you can come down and take a look at it, but I would leave that to.
But the plan is the 2 buildings that are there, they would remain. We wouldn't tear them down.
Oh, no, they're
gonna
perfectly,
stay.
one was built in 1998, and the other was built in 2002, I believe, for the time frame. So they're, Tim, you want to touch on the construction of the buildings that are there? You're still muted. Well, it's a rookie mistake.
Sorry. Yeah, the existing buildings, they're steel structures with a full foundation frost wall on the large building, metal skinned insulated buildings. They're in relatively good shape. They were taken care of. The smaller building of the 2 is a pole barn style building, and it's totally sheathed inside and out and insulated. All concrete floors. They were basically built for construction in mind. So they do have, as Dennis said, oil heat. They have Modine heaters in them, and would be looking to convert it over to gas, obviously for cost savings and a little bit cleaner. And it's right up the street. So everything, it's in really good shape. The existing site has 2 pad sites that Dennis referred to that were already approved in the site plan, and they already have all of the plumbing rough to them and all piped to the septic system and everything. So they're ready to go for any kind of expansion, which we were looking to. We have a price coming in for the office area to expand for about 4,000 square feet of office. So the site was planned out pretty well by the developer originally because it was his own site. The soils are very good soils, drainage soils. It's all sand. As far as any of the infiltration goes, there's never any water in the retention pond. It's a nice site for what we need it for. It's perfect. It's in the industrial zone. The oil tank that is above ground that you guys were talking about, there was nothing reported, no spills ever. There's no staining on the ground or anything. They tested that, so it came up clean. So we're waiting now I'm waiting for an assessment for just as an overall view of the condition of the skins. There's never been any damage on the building, so they're in good shape. No one's ever hit anything with a machine, so the foundations are in good shape. But we asked for a full report just to go through and check all the boxes as far as the condition of the buildings themselves. So we'll have that in about a week. And we're also working on, like Don mentioned, the office expansion. So we have to come up with some type of a number for, that would satisfy the prevailing wage, and that's what we're working on now.
So when they built the building in 1998, what was there before, or is that?
It was a vacant lot. Barney Cross.
So there was no old building that was taken down?
No.
Not that we know of, no.
Okay.
Is it Barney Brothers that owned it?
Barney Brothers did own it, and they had sold it to Cataldo and the other
Yeah.
gentleman that owns it. There's two individuals that own it
Yeah.
now. And they essentially condominiumized it. They had, as someone had mentioned, 3 businesses there, maybe 4 businesses there. And that's what they intended to continue doing with the additional pad sites, so.
Yeah, it's condoed now for the 2 sites, just because Cataldo had a building and Mike Salvador had a building, and they have a tenant, which is the oil company that, they just park their vehicles there and for the repair. But so that's they just rented out space to that third entity.
So to put it in perspective, Don's had $8 million on his capital list for 10,000 square feet of garage space at the DPW. I know it was kind of a wag estimate. Yeah, but guess, but it was based on.
The numbers back in 2008 were somewhere between the $6 and $10 million to do the full expansion at the DPW. No, that we haven't revisited that number, but everything is gone. So that's to say that could very well be 10 to 15 if we were to go with new construction at our site. And I just did a sort of back of envelope analysis on numbers that we had from a little more recently. Is if we were just going to build that storage space, that build a garage, another garage on the hill, for example, that would have that storage space, and it was $1 million more than what we're looking to buy down there right now. So as far as the price, it's just not the wage scale issue. The competitive bid you think would get you the best deal, but it's expensive. Public works buildings are expensive. They're going up, and most of them are going up for $10 million.
Are we gonna look at a design build proposal, or are we gonna do build fashion?
It's way too early in at this point, because we're dealing with a building, an office space building. I have other than working in one, I'm not going to tell you that I have any expertise in saying that what needs to go into putting an office space together.
So we're looking at a metal building for the office space.
It's up to, I'm not sure. Tim was looking at a similar type of construction as to.
What are you pricing out, Tim, as far as the office goes?
So we're pricing out, it's going to be, we're going first with a steel building, but I'm going to see if we can do an option for a wood building, because right now, depending on when it happens, steel is really high right now. And wood is a lot more competitive now. It's usually the other way around, but it's just upside right now. So, but we are doing it. I am having it priced in steel, and it's a 1-story. It's probably like a 9-foot plate height, which would be conducive for office. And then, one pitch roof, a full A pitched roof, and probably trusses over it, but it would be a steel structure.
So would this be an Article 6 capital outlay item greater than 50?
It's actually 2 separate articles. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So there is it Article 15?
Yes,
Okay, so that's on page, in the lower right-hand corner.
12.
Page 12. Thank you, Kelly.
Sorry, I've got it open.
No, that's perfect. So what happened when we put the warrant articles together is the way that Article 15 was worded is it is restricted to simply the purchase, the acquisition of the Depot Street property. So the acquisition of the land and the building structures that we just heard about would be covered under Article 15 with a borrowing of $2.7 million for that acquisition. The remaining part of the project that Dennis and Tim and Don had talked about that includes the office space as well as the critical repairs and maintenance to the Blackstone Street facility, that would be covered in Article 6. So bond counsel has advised us that we cannot do it all in one article as we had originally hoped. So we've broken it into 2.
So Article 6 would be 2.3 million for construction?
that would include construction. Now, remember, this is borrowing authorization, so we're not gonna go right out and borrow $2.3 million. We have to competitively bid this and get price estimates. And our borrowing would be what the actual cost of the construction would be. So that Article 6 includes the office space that we were just talking about, as well as the structural repairs to the roof at Blackstone Street that are critical for that particular building.
So Article 6 would be 2.3 million for Depot Street. But did you just say that would
No.
be?
So Article 15 is 2.7 for Depot Street,
right.
and Article 6 is going to be, it's two pieces, borrowing authorization up to 2.3 million, and it would include office space at Depot Street and repairs and maintenance at Blackstone Street.
We're talking as far as the repairs, the roof, basically?
Yes.
Yeah, with no need for the sprinklers now.
Yeah, they're split,
and all that.
you know, with our system split up, not literally trying to jam every vehicle in the same building, it's not quite as big a concern.
And also the removal of those structures that we have that are at the existing site, those small storage sheds, we'd be getting those out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not
For
falling
traffic
down,
flow,
there's always, you know, a shed with no heat is a good place to put waterworks material, so it's not like we're gonna, I don't know, at this point, you know, until it happens, and we start working the operational, you know, putting together a game plan for something that may not happen. But it solves a huge vehicle storage need and puts us in a position to build the office space that we desperately need. So, I mean, there's things we'll probably do inside the building. You know, much of the office now extends into the Blackstone Street building. Once that's no longer necessary as office space, then we start looking at something that fairly minor demolition that our crews could do to add additional storage there for parks equipment, for possibly put additional overhead doors in for access to the mechanics area. Things like that will come forward when we sort of get used to what we have, and we have some space to get the vehicles.
Just procedurally, we would move, we asked the moderator to move Article 15 before Article 6, because if Article 15 fails, then we wouldn't be looking for the money to build office space, obviously.
And when you do this, you're gonna continue to fuel the trucks from Blackstone Street, right there.
So the devil is always in the details, as we all know. And so when I was first asked to look at this building, I gave you my opinion. I thought it was probably a pretty good idea, and we should look. And there were some things that I wanted to have looked at, because I hate split operations.
Yep.
What I find with split operations is you have total inefficiency, and in the greatest possible regard, and you also have you have real issues with work control. So I'm not a real fan of that idea. And now I'm hearing, oh, we're going to do repairs to the old building at the same time. It's like, okay, so we're just going to throw bad money after good. That's all we're going to keep doing. One of the things that I had asked was for somebody to check the doors, because the doors look narrow on those buildings. And I'm concerned that with your plow trucks, you may have an issue. I don't know if that's been done, but it should.
Yeah, there's 14s and 12s.
And I have no idea.
We have 18s at the DPW, 18 be great, we don't have that.
We have wings on the plows.
We have wings on the plows, and we did have the mechanic measure the span, and at no point it was going to be, you know, a situation where they couldn't get even through the 12-foot door if they know what they're doing. So it's the way that they will get in through the 12-foot doors.
Yeah.
But we've got plenty of, I think half of the doors are 14 in the two buildings.
Yep. And what's the width of your plows?
Well,
With the wings, do we know?
the width of the wings, I haven't got that information with me. The amount that sticks out is like two more
These are some of the
feet.
things that I'd like to have covered so that I feel comfortable that we're not just buying something that we're gonna have to start tearing doors apart and putting in new.
Sure.
If we did, that's okay, except I wanna know what it's gonna cost. Because as Tim starts looking at costs and so forth, I wanna make sure that we're not kidding ourselves with some of this stuff, because that's usually what happens. So that's kind of some of the concerns. I have no idea what the power going to that building is and what you're gonna need. I hope somebody's looking at that, because frankly, the structural capacity of that building doesn't scare me in the least. But some of the internal stuff is what we don't know. And if you need three 700 amp services, I doubt that they're there. And do we have to get them? I don't know the answer to that, but it's gonna cost us something. It's, every time we do something, we ought to have a plan for what it's really gonna look like. I had asked for a plan of how's the equipment gonna fit in these buildings?
If Don did that, we should have got that to your own, but he did do that. We did ask him for that. He did it shortly after that. I know he provided it to.
Yeah, I literally, the mechanic measured every piece of equipment. I did a little to scale thing and I put it out. I'm not knowing any other way to do it other than just doing it on a piece of paper plan to
That's
scale.
about the only way to do it.
Yeah, so I took a picture and it was really mostly a matter of what my exercise was, can we get all this stuff in and we easily could. I mean, so it's a matter of how I was parking stuff. You could go crazy.
So what operation is gonna remain at Depot Street?
But once we have the office,
Not at Depot Street, I'm sorry. What operation is gonna remain at Blackstone?
once we have, the intention is, once the office is built at Depot Street, the only thing that will be at Blackstone Street would be the mechanics. The mechanics, which are fairly well set up there. And I agree with you, splitting would not be my ideal. But the reality is, big public works departments have split locations all over the city. I mean, there's not one centralized Austin, or Worcester or so forth. And that I feel the mechanics are probably the easiest to split out. Because they sort of work, they work on the equipment that we bring to them. We bring it to them there, we bring it to them at the other location. So that would be my game plan. I think by the time that game plan is being implemented, Jesse and the rest of the managers will be here because I'm a short timer now. I get like Dennis, not much beyond the beginning of 2023. So I don't expect to even sit in the new office, to be quite honest with you, if we proceed. But that was problems that they would face, and I don't like it. I don't want to have half the crew doing one thing, half the crew doing the other. All of the field workers will be showing up to wherever the office is. And the office will be at Blackstone Street until it's built and operational at Depot Street. And then maybe we'll have 4 mechanics by then. They will report to Blackstone Street, and the whatever foreman manager is in charge of them will check in with them in the morning. Not dissimilar to what we've been doing during COVID. The facilities operators are going directly to the treatment plants. And that was mostly COVID driven, but it's also, it's an efficiency thing. They're not coming to Blackstone Street and then driving to Hartford or driving to Renfrew Road. So we've got a little bit of experience with the specialized people going to a different location and still managing them well. So I don't disagree with you. I'd love to have everything in one place, but to solve the storage problem, if this does fall through, we're going to scramble to find some place to put the back truck in the sweep. The place we rented last year, which is still there, I guess he's not interested. I think he's in the process of getting it demoed, so he's not interested in renting. And we need to. That's the biggest issue that we need to have. No matter how much they use water, we drain them the best we can. If you don't, you miss something, then they sit outside in the freezing weather, and all of a sudden you go to use them, and they're either not going to work or they're going to lose the line or something.
Hey, quick question. Is this the
There you go.
garage up front,
That's
Depot Street?
that would be the garage up front, because no, that's the one in the back. That's one on the side.
That's
The
the
one
one
up front. It's the one if you're looking at the property to your left.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay. Now what's this one? There's no doors on this.
That's our existing.
That's your existing. Okay. So you're planning on putting all these over there and all these over here?
Well, that's I think that's the salt. Again, I'm looking at it. Those are all the big salt trucks, which can fit inside of the.
Okay.
Yeah, and they would, because the salt shed's there.
All the equipment's not going to Depot Street. Half the equipment's gonna be at Blackstone Street.
The snow equipment's going to be at Blackstone Street.
Now I see you got this, the way you got this stuff in there. You figured alternative radiuses? Is this going to be a Chinese puzzle? Which piece do we take out first to get to the one we got in the back?
Well, I don't. That's why as I started the exercise, I said this is crazy until we get actually doing it to see how it's going to work. Not only that, but mechanics did a decent job, but some of them I think on the bigger trucks with the plows, with the wing plows, they were giving more of a cushion than me. And then some of them, they were doing exact, so I think they have, backhoe at 8 feet, which is 8 feet. But then they have, a truck that's at 11 or the other backhoe that's at 11. I'm like, there wasn't a lot of consistency in what they gave. But
At least, especially on the turning radius.
yeah, I know, it's not. Joe, I can't, as I started the exercise, I'm saying, what am
I doing?
I could give you 14 different options. It's, I'm not that good at Tetris, but that's what it is. It's really sort of playing Tetris with it. And until we're out there doing it, and having someplace to put it and say, hey, this actually looks like more space. This, we can back these in. The garage that you face has, and actually all of them, they have very deep, they're deeper than one truck
They're
space.
almost doubles,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're almost double depth. The one to the left, the back one that you get in has a wider and deep space, and the one, the bay, the two or three bays to the left of the one you look at has a back way out. So in other words, you don't,
Yeah.
they were just, again, game planning for something that may not happen. Yeah, a little bit of it. That's why I messed around with it, but how much more can I get into it until it becomes a reality? I mean, I still have it all in an envelope. I'll give it to you to play with.
You know what? I'll tell you something. I felt a whole lot better before you started talking.
Well, I don't know what
Because right now what I'm hearing is that, well, we really don't have a plan. We don't know if it's gonna fit. It's gonna fit sort of. We're gonna make it fit. And I'm really scared to death now that we're gonna buy a $2.7 million white elephant.
All right, see, we're gonna buy a $2.7 million building that allows us to take all of our vehicles and get them out of the weather.
Except the plow trucks.
Excuse me?
Except the plow trucks. Because they're gonna stay at Blackstone Street because
Well,
you
they're out
got
of the
room
weather.
for them here.
They're out of the weather. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying, yeah, we need 20,000 square feet.
Yeah.
If we want to go and build 20,000 square feet at Blackstone Street, that's $7 million. That doesn't give us an office, that doesn't solve the office space. Yeah, so if we want to do 20,000 square feet building for $7 million, and we want to do $3 million or $2.5 million for the office space, this is what we're talking about. Yeah, if you were willing to give us $15 million, we'll do something different. That's not even on the plate. It's not our ability. Do we do nothing at this point when we have this opportunity? It's a property that comes up for sale. So it's not like they're a dime a dozen to pick and choose. It's sort of, it's a viable option to help us solve a big problem. So I know what
So
you're saying.
Roland, can you throw some questions at us so that we can, if you've
Okay.
got some concerns?
The biggest one for me is how is the equipment gonna fit into these buildings? What are we gonna do? And then if we're planning, because it sounds to me now like what we're really planning is we're gonna split the operation, we'll put something up here, and we're gonna have the other stuff down there. And the stuff that's down there is never gonna leave there, never. Because you don't have room up here to build another 10,000 square feet of buildings after you put the office space. So you're always gonna have a bifurcated operation. That's what I'm hearing today. And ultimately, we're gonna spend another $5 million down there because that building's not gonna last that much longer. That's my concern.
Yeah.
All right, and so I don't want to talk about history, because if we want to talk about history, we'll talk about history and it'll get ugly. But the fact of the matter is that when we do these things, I think we have to do them with an eye of, okay, what is this really going to do for us? I know it's available to us, but we have one available on Williams Way. And fortunately, you didn't pull the trigger on that one because it probably would have been horrible. And I'm not against this. I appreciated going out and looking at it, and I looked at the buildings, and the first thing I said was, okay, do we have something that tells us how the equipment's gonna go in? That's what I wanna know. Because I don't want him to have the problem after you leave. I'd like us all to be able to say, yeah, okay, we're good.
Well, I mean, we haven't sat down and looked at that.
Yeah.
And again, that's all I said. What you got is what I did, it took more time than I had hoped to put the sort of the jigsaw puzzle together. And then it's like, how far do I go with this?
Yeah.
If you want us to go further, I'm sure Jesse and I and Chris will sit down and see, actually come up with a game plan. This is what we'll do. This is what we look to do. So,
frankly, I'd feel better if we had a game plan, because I think that that's important. We're talking about a serious expenditure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it always scares me when okay, I need 2.7 million to buy the building. Well, we're gonna throw in another 2.3 because, you know, well, we don't want to have to go back to the public that many times, because frankly, we'll spend the 2.3 and we'll probably come back to them anyway. That's my real belief, especially if we're gonna try to fix that white elephant down.
Yeah, I would like to have some harder numbers for the 2.3 million. I mean, buying a building is one thing. We know it's there, we know how we're gonna use it. Just have to. And that's the parking facilities here. But to say we're gonna appropriate $2.3 million, we think we're gonna put a metal building in, but not sure. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna fix it. Let's go out and get some estimates, or at least get, put a little seed money to design a building so we know what it's gonna cost, so we appropriate the right amount of money. I hate, it's like when we rehabbed the fire station down in the south. I need 85,000. Then it was 100 and something thousand. Then it was another 100 and something thousand. No, tell me what it's gonna cost to do it, soup to nuts, and then we'll decide whether it's worth investing that amount of money in that building.
So would you like to come down and visit the existing building, and we can put a plan together showing a little bit more specifically what's going to be there?
Yeah.
Clearly, the plan is, as far as split operations, mechanics staying at Blackstone Street, snow operations going out of Blackstone Street, and everything else going out of Depot Street. But as I said at the beginning, we can set up a tour of the facility, maybe get a wing plow down there so everybody can see what a wing plow looks like going in and out of that building. But the mechanics did come back and say that there wouldn't be an issue based on their measurements, but we can certainly do that. But I think the other thing and I know Roland asked for it initially, was a plan showing where everything was going to go.
Yeah.
So we can certainly do that.
And to make sure we have adequate space for turning radiuses, so we don't have to take out 9 pieces of equipment to get the one that's in the back that we need today.
You're gonna have to. There's no turning radius thing. The equipment, all you gotta do is just look at this, and the way they got the equipment from front to back, there's no way for them to get out. If they want to get that piece of equipment out, they gotta take the piece in front of it out. Which is
I understand
not
that.
particularly.
Absolutely. What do you do now on Blackstone Street?
Everything's parked outside.
But when you fill the building with equipment, you don't have multiple doors to get out. You still have to move equipment to get it out.
Absolutely, all the time.
Yeah.
We try to queue up the salt trucks when an
I
event's coming, so they're in the main drag. But there's nothing to guarantee that, then we get a call for a water main break and everything, all the salt trucks are gonna move out so we can get the water main break up. So.
But when the trucks go inside, they have the plows on them? Sure.
No, not yet.
We drop the plows.
No, the wing plow, Roland's talking about the wing plow. The wing plow is an attachment that goes on the side and it folds up, of course, when it's out, it's probably.
You don't get to just drop it off like you do off your Jimmy or something.
No, but that's one, how many wing plows do we have?
We're gonna have two big trucks now and then one small truck.
Yeah, and the small truck, the small trucks are at 550, so it's a big, putting it on the big truck is when it's gonna stick out some more. So you have 2 trucks with wing plows.
So with the wing plows, when they go on in the fall, they stay on until the spring? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
They don't come off?
No.
So those trucks are used for nothing else? If it doesn't snow, they're not used?
Well, they got a salt, they got a salt spreader on the back, so they really have no other, you can't use it for anything else really. So. Yeah, our ability to move dirt is pretty bad in the winter.
I would appreciate getting that addition. I'm not against this.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're not going to find ourselves. I've seen this too many times in too many places where you do something that you think is going to be good, but and I'm not saying here, but well, even here, that you don't plan it out quite right. Then the next thing you know, it's like, well, you know what, we really need another 3 million to make this work now, and it's beyond the 5 that we started with.
So somebody mentioned 7 million.
Nope.
For new construction. What do you get for 7 million?
And those are just, if you really wanted to get an estimate on 10,000 square feet or 15,000, we'd have to go out. those are numbers that have been thrown around. 8.8 million's been on the capital plan for I don't know how long. It's an estimate that was done, you know, it was just there. So couldn't give you a straight answer on it, John, to say what we can buy with $7 million.
You're not gonna get a 20,000 square foot building, right?
Well, that was in 2008.
How many square feet was that?
Yeah, you're not gonna get 20,000 square foot for, wait. Guessing. 20,000 square foot building maybe would cost us $8 to $8.5 million to build that. That's our storage space. No office solution.
Garage square foot.
That's just the garage, not the office.
Yeah.
So you still at, even if that was a good number, you still at 10 million, and you all in with an office.
We're probably 10.
Probably at the
11
low end is
Yeah.
10 million.
If you were gonna build a brand new facility, you'd definitely be well over 10 million. If you're gonna tear down Blackstone Street, and start from scratch and say, I'm gonna build a new facility. If you're looking at a steel building, you're probably looking, my guess is in the 12 to 15 million. If you're looking at masonry structure, you're talking about 20 to 25.
We've addressed, and I know I've had this conversation with Ron before, we've pretty much addressed all the municipal and school needs in town over the last 30 years, as far as libraries and senior centers and police stations and fire stations and high school and middle school renovation and elementary school. But there's only one area we really haven't touched. We built huge filtration plants for water, and we've done a good job with pumping stations and expanding soil, but that facility probably needed significant work 20 or 30 years ago. It's something that needs to be addressed, whether it's through the purchase of a building or construction of something new. We're at a point where we need to keep it in the forefront
So would
to
everybody
protect the
feel
investment
better
that
if
we
we
have
went
in
to
equipment.
if we went there and looked at the buildings? Is that what everybody wants to do?
Be happy to do it. It's a big purchase. I think to vote on it, you should have the opportunity to walk through it, John,
And ask some
So when
questions.
can we do that?
I think what you tell me what's good, because in the purchase and sale agreement, one of the things it specifically states, and obviously there's no money associated with the purchase and sale agreement, all it does is tie up the property
Yep.
for a town meeting vote, but it specifically states that with 24-hour notice, they'll make the building available for inspection or.
Whenever you want to do it, I'll make myself available.
So I
Whatever.
think
Your contract is
So
Friday.
everybody wants to just pick a time. I'll during the
Friday,
day.
but not yet.
I'm not gonna Friday either.
Monday or Saturday,
Yeah,
we could do a weekend
Don't
too, if
take
that's
two
more
vacation days.
convenient.
Saturday's fine with me.
Saturday. What
It
about?
will be, they'll have the doors open for us, right?
Oh, yeah, they'll have the
Yeah.
building completely accessible for us.
They'll have a truck in there. It's
Next-
very
not this Saturday,
impressive.
next Saturday. I'm not.
You're gonna be away, right?
I'm gonna be away Friday through Monday.
Okay,
Out here
Right
Friday.
in the following Saturday.
that makes it tight for.
Do you wanna-
You want to
I
mix it
don't-
tight for
I don't want
time.
to wait that long.
Yeah, that makes it tight for your board to.
So can we do it even if Don's not there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Is that
I mean,
okay?
and if we wanna have a truck, and all you gotta do is contact the.
Yeah, we'll have a wing plow there to get a real good.
Yep.
Maybe a couple of vehicles there.
Yeah, the wing plow would be, that would be the widest of.
Although we won't be
The truck with
keeping the
the
wing
wing
plow there. We're gonna
Yeah,
keep
but
it
I
at
mean,
Blackstone, but we'll bring it up anyway.
Yeah, I understand Roland's concern. I mean, yeah, because we have 18-foot wide doors too, but we have 18-foot wide doors to DPW. If they're 14s and 12s. 18s,
We
18s gives you lots of room.
trucks there, right? There's-
Yeah, let's
the
get
other
two
companies
vehicles
are gonna
in.
have their trucks.
They don't have a lot of equipment there.
They don't?
They didn't have a lot of equipment,
What's
as far
that?
as trucks go.
What
To
time
put it
is
in
he
per-
on Friday?
I fly out.
Frankly,
Friday
you're
morning
better
at
off
8
having
o'clock.
him bring one of his pieces of equipment so you can see how it's gonna go. And that way, if they've got an empty bay, you can actually back the thing right in.
Yeah.
And then you get a real good visual of how big and how long his stuff is and how it's gonna fit and whether or not you can have multiple pieces.
When we went and saw it, they had one of those big dump trucks in there,
Oh, yeah, they,
It's
well,
how
that's, they have.
dump truck
their
is in
equipment's big.
and you could get a sense of the room you had remaining behind the truck, but also the empty bays as well.
Yeah, on Blackstone Street, the garage is 7,500 square feet.
Yeah, the storage space is like 73.
Yeah,
The
and
place we can actually, because we've got mechanic space, we got office space, we got storage and or break room space that is cut into the actual square footage of the.
So the
of
73.
It's like 73.7 is the actual square
So is
footage.
your break
where we
room,
could
is your
park a
break,
truck.
is your break room on Depot Street gonna end up in the office building?
That would be the intent, yeah. It would be a break room, meeting room, bid opening room, so forth. If we don't really, you've been in the back office, that's, you can't have a bid opening in there if 4 bidders show up there. They're standing out in the street, so.
Yeah, I mean, the issues, obviously, our field inspector had an office in the upper town hall. We actually built an office up there. It's one of the, part of the management team. Any type of meetings are held here and not at their site, so there's logistical issues. I don't think anyone's gonna deny the fact that something's gotta get done. It's just a matter of, and I appreciate what we're all saying. I mean, we wanna make sure whatever we do makes sense, and we spend a fair amount of time on it, but, certainly some questions here that we can,
So should we go Saturday?
who wants to go?
I can't go.
I mean,
Are you available, Jesse?
Joe.
I'll
Yeah.
go.
Saturday?
Good. Good. Okay, so we'll definitely shoot for Saturday at 9 o'clock. Is that reasonable? Yeah, good.
It's up to you.
Yeah, no.
I don't need to go again.
I think that is good.
And we'll send something out. I'll talk to you about having somebody there with
Yeah, the issue with Saturday, I mean, we're in good shape, but we gotta pay guys.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You
Few
gotta-
minutes and
Yeah.
9:30.
We gotta pay guys if they're gonna drive the trucks.
Yeah, so we can give them something else to do after they drive the trucks, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's gonna be raining again, I don't know.
I know, I was just trying to
Give
figure
it
out
a
what
go.
to do.
Open up the drains.
If some of
Good
the,
night.
Another meeting for those 2 votes after Saturday?
I'm sorry, say again.
Are we gonna need another meeting for those 2 votes?
Yeah,
with
definitely gonna
both
need another.
committees?
I think you're gonna
Yeah,
need to,
meeting,
if,
yeah.
depending on how many members from the committees are going, you need to post that as a meeting.
Because
Yeah,
I
we'll
am
post that as a meeting, but I think
getting way
that's a good idea.
behind with the book, way behind with the book.
So maybe. a
I'm
follow-up-
hoping, I'm
I
sorry,
was gonna say a follow-up meeting for the boards, maybe on Monday or Tuesday.
Can
or
we do
something like that.
Tuesday, Board of Health, we have Board of Health meeting Tuesday.
We have select board Monday.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, if we do it at 5 o'clock, it seems to work just fine.
what time do you have Board of Health?
Board of Health Tuesday at 7.
Any chance we could do Tuesday before that? So if you guys see the facility on Saturday, we come back on Tuesday, you're out on Monday. Could we meet on Tuesday and finalize the vote? I'm hoping, Tina, that we'll be able to get through everything else finalized and you can have a draft of the booklet, and this would be the last thing that we have to drop in.
I can, as
Or
long
take
as I just get quorum, because it is very difficult to try to get quorum out of everybody. Really,
I'll
really
do
tough.
Monday or Tuesday, I don't care, either one. Monday.
I can try. I'm starting a new job on
Joe?
Monday, so.
Can you zoom in?
I'm good.
I can do Monday or
I
Tuesday.
have no idea what it's gonna be like once I'm out of California. So you have to be working until
You want Monday or
like
Tuesday?
Well, can you do Monday or Tuesday, Roland?
Yeah, tell me what you need. I'll be there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here Monday for a meeting
We're gonna
anyway,
need-
so.
I don't know
We're
if
gonna need
Joyce, Joyce, can you hear us?
Is Joyce on?
Joyce, come in, Joyce.
Yes, I'm here.
Joyce, would you be available Tuesday night at 5?
Yes,
Okay.
And you heard Saturday at 9 o'clock?
yes, Saturday at 9. I'm
Okay.
not sure if I can make that, but I can make Tuesday at 5.
Okay.
Okay.
You want us
'cause I'm
just
not
to
hearing
show
back
up there
from
at 9
Adam.
o'clock? Saturday morning?
We'll send out an email confirming, but right now,
Yep.
9 AM. I'll-
Yeah, somebody's gonna get all that, let us know.
Yeah, Adam's not been responding to any of my.
I think
blasts
he's
that
So
he
you-
sent out. Right now he is.
So
yeah.
just send an email to all the members, 9 o'clock, whatever the time is, and the address on Depot Street.
And if anybody needs any other information prepared ahead of that, if you guys have other questions, let us know. We can certainly have that available before Saturday.
But certainly the.
Is the engineer's
electrical,
report gonna be ready for Tuesday?
I'm sorry?
Is the engineer's report gonna be ready for Tuesday?
I don't know, is Tim still on here?
Tim?
Yes, I'm still here.
No.
I will reach out to him tomorrow and ask. I'm sure it's probably just about, so.
Okay, great. Okay,
Does the engineer's report include environmental?
No, the environmental's been done. That's the 21E. So that's done and on file with the Board of Health and with the fire department.
And that's the one that says there's no contamination on the
Right.
land?
Yep.
Does that get sewer up there at Title V? We have Title
It's a
V.
septic system.
It's septic.
Something?
Yep.
So these are Title V too.
Yes.
Yep.
they have it.
They
As
just-
we asked about that.
Yeah.
they
Yeah,
have it.
they said.
The septic for the new buildings is all in installed.
Yeah, that would be about the old building.
I don't know that that's true.
That's what he told me anyway. The 3 manholes off to the side are all.
I think they put those in. I'm not sure if the trenches are.
No, that's what I perceived what they told me. Anyway, that it was all plumbed and septic's in place.
Because the other thing is that I don't think that will, if it is in, it's probably gonna have to be extended or redone. Because the number, the consumption, the sewage flow coming out of your office is gonna be a hell of a lot more than it was out of those buildings.
Yeah.
Out of a warehouse or a storage.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll have to look at what they applied for.
Yeah, so I think they did the rough plumbing in the tanks. I don't think they put the field in. Because that's one of the things, remember we walked back for the existing building and they said it's right in here. And they even had it on the plan, or they had a plan of it. And I didn't remember seeing it for the proposal.
Yeah, that's actually the.
No, it's a system for
Yeah.
the 2 garages, and it's gonna be a system for the new building, new office.
Yeah. But it's all sand. It's not like this is gonna be long. This is gonna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Article 9, I think.
Yeah, John had one other article, if we could do that one, it's the water resource, was that the one?
Yeah, Jesse, who's been dealing with DEP, so that's what I wanted to. If you haven't met, this is Jesse Rydell, he's Assistant Director, Assistant DPW Director.
Thank
So, yeah, so just where it came from, that I'll let you take it as far as the DEP wants us to do.
Oh, hang on, do you
Did-
need
did I send
CIC
you
for
the,
anything else?
I was gonna ask that question.
Can we adjourn CIC before you guys?
I'm just flipping through real quick. Hang on a
What's the
second.
request for the?
It's redistricting, it's not monetary.
Okay.
Well, it's,
No, we have
Well,
not.
even
it's an amendment to water
Yes.
resource
even
district, so
if it was money, it probably doesn't matter.
it's not
You're
capital
buying
for
equipment,
us.
it's not a
Yeah.
capital.
Right, yeah, there's no money,
Yeah.
there's no money involved.
It's like I don't do salaries.
Yeah, we did have one other item for capital that we talked about, didn't finalize, and that's Article 14, which is the roadway improvements.
Article 4. So in the packet that you were handed out this evening, in the lower right-hand corner, there's handwritten page numbers. If you go to page 12. We are proposing to bring forward to town meeting a roadway improvement bonding article for $1.5 million. Funding source would be borrowing. And I know that we had the road committee has met several times, talked about a number of different projects. And so we are bringing forward this particular article to town meeting in order to work on some of the projects that we've talked about at the roads committee meeting.
I suspect that anything that's coming out of that will end up going before the road committee again to priority.
Exactly, prioritize.
And just,
Do we have any questions from the CIC?
No.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to borrow $1.5 million.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none. Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That's it. Done.
Can we also get a FinCom vote on that one as well, or on this article?
Yep, so this work would be done when?
This would not be done in the fall. This would be
Oh,
bid
no.
out for this.
This will be the 2022 construction.
2022.
and just as far as our debt goes, this combined with the $5 million that we're talking about for the DPW purchase and improvements keeps our debt schedule level, given the debt that we are retiring. So you won't see an increase in debt and interest, which is obviously the goal to try and keep a level debt, or one that grows with the rate of.
Is there already a list of roads and streets that would be?
There's a list in consideration. I just pulled together a quick list from the last road committee discussion. That number comes up to like 2.7. So the road committee's gonna have to meet and see which ones we actually do.
So there's a tentative list.
Excuse me?
Tentative list.
Yeah,
It's not final.
there's a tentative list, and sometimes that's why I almost hate to we get publish it by any way, shape, or form, because there are last minute amendments that occur all the time, so.
And this is all improvements or repairs to existing roads, we're not
The vast
building.
vast
not new
majority
roads.
are surface improvements.
Just
Roads,
resurfacing,
yeah.
okay.
And the other thing we were trying to do, and I'll be getting something to Mary hopefully by the time I leave for vacation, is we met today to talk about waterworks projects that we need done. Maybe you can get some ARPA funds for, which would be followed up. Using those funds, we'd also use them to fix the road after we do the water pipe. So that may knock a few of these off and put them on the water list. We'll see, but the other thing that the road committee, and we'll get something together probably sometime late November or December, is to talk about where we want to go next with the tip. We're about to get our tip project under construction or advertise the one that's on South Main Street from Douglas Drive to the center. So it's a good time to sit down and say what next street do we want to start the 8 to 10 year process.
Although this one was a lot quicker than that.
Yeah, it did go like that. I won't say it went real quick, but it did. It actually excelled. It surprised me.
like
I
4
thought
years.
I thought we were going a year later.
Like 4 years from the time we interviewed to now.
Because it's been a bit of a, especially as you know, right away. I'm doing my best tap dance to get right away happy. That may delay. I don't think it'll delay as much as far as construction goes, but that's the
What's the
nightmare.
engineer's estimate for that construction?
Excuse me?
What's the engineer's estimate for that construction? Do you know?
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a while, so I think it's 675.
7.5.
Is it, in the CHIP program, just for everybody here, is the traffic improvement plan, a program, and it's effectively a 90% grant. Because the state builds the whole thing. They get their engineers, but we've got to design it, we've got to do the land acquisition.
Did we just switch from Article 14 to something else?
Yes. It was-
So that's not the 1.5 million,
No,
right?
no.
So the
1.5,
1.5 million, is that milling existing roads and repaving, or does that include?
It's some complete road reconstruction.
Or does that include building sidewalks, like some of the big sidewalk projects?
I can tell you there's no sidewalk.
No sidewalks,
No
okay.
sidewalk in this list.
This is mostly milling and repaving.
Milling, repaving, reconstruction, resurfacing, preventative maintenance surfacing on major roads. That's not just a minimal cost that we can cover in the annual.
Similar to what was done on Maple Street, that's what this is gonna be.
Yeah, yes, Maple Street was extensive. Actually, most of these will be less significant than what we did on Maple Street.
Less than Maple.
Yeah.
But they didn't build sidewalks on
No.
Maple, but they did mill and repaved it, but it's not completely dug up and reconstructed from
But
scratch.
then some of the streets on this list will get that. We'll get that traffic. Florida Ave, for example, there's no way to mill it. We've got to solve some drainage problems. We'll turn it into dirt, we'll regrade it, and we'll pave it. Most of them, and that's why it's a good bang for the buck, will be a mill and overlay, but you can't mill a street that hasn't got enough pavement on it to mill it off, so. Although we try to fit that in sometimes because it's still a pretty good solution. And it's
Right, so what you're saying is where it can be milled, it will be milled.
Yeah, where it can be where it can be just leveled and overlaid, we'll do that. Those are generally the three options that we use for a real surface improvement project, is level and overlay, which is you put a very thin course and then maybe 1.5 to 2 inches. You got to have the right driveways, otherwise you're flooding people out if you're going to raise the road 3 inches. Yep. A mill and overlay, you mill 2, pave 2, you get 2 inches of great pavement, but you've got to have an existing depth of pavement that's 5 or 6 or 7 inches that you can mill it and not be going through the gravel, going through. And then reclaim and regrade is what we call it, is they come in, they pulverize the whole street, they turn it to dirt, they regrade it, and we really build a brand new road, so.
And the third one is the most expensive,
Absolutely.
most work. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, and mill and fill, or the mill and hot mix asphalt, and the level and overlay cost-wise are really close, because they work out that way. One of them averages around $17.70 per square yard, and the other is $18 to $18.30. So that's really matched up to what fits the road best.
Okay.
That's not a matter. It's not an economic decision. That's what are we going to pick? Is this going to be a mess because we get so many driveway aprons to do if we raise the road or that type of thing? So, but the costs are about the same. But then it's almost double that cost for reclaiming the grid.
Any other comments or questions on Article 14? Motion to recommend Article 14, $1.5 million from borrowing.
So
Second.
Moved. Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is recommended
Was that 5-0?
5-0.
Yes.
Thank you.
We don't have 6, right? It's 5-0.
Five.
Okay.
And I think, do you have to adjourn?
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Oh, she has, I have to leave.
Oh, okay.
She's asking.
Sorry.
Then I think Article 9 is, I'm probably the only official DPW sponsor. We're gonna go there now. That's for sort of what I wanted. Jesse's the
Yeah, I
one who's
just
been
need to
talking
make
to
sure
water
that I-
resources people about our map changes. It hasn't,
you
right
have
after the last
Yep.
time meeting, so he might not even.
That's just.
So,
Water resource map.
Right.
Don, you want to do Article 9?
Just need to make sure I have the votes on
Alright, go ahead.
All right, Article 9 is water resource district map revision.
Wait,
Can we adjourn?
you can
Capital?
adjourn
CIC.
capital. Hang on, Don.
Oh, you're not done with that.
Oh, you have to do this one.
Did you say you're not done with capital?
All set.
Capital, I think is all set. Now that
Right,
Mr.
we need to
Hurwitz-
adjourn now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Didn't hear you.
I said I, sorry.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually printed them there. Because they came up like white and it's not really easy to see. But, Tina, did I send you that? Did I send you the maps?
Yeah.
I think we got it.
Yes, I printed, I didn't print them all.
Our water resource map is based on the zone 2s that are delineated related to our wells. Those are DEP approved zone 2s. And I'm not exactly sure how they realize that we have missed a little finger of land, but all of ours match up to our zone 2 well resource areas. It turns out we had a small area that is roughly off of Weathersfield, it's off of, and it goes across Hartford Ave, a little triangle of land that was not in the map. It was a map that DEP actually, I think, came back and said, no, the one that we approved before isn't good. We revisited this and it should be that. So this is simply moving our water resource district to match our zone 2 well protection zone. Doesn't change any of the wording of the bylaw, just changes what the map looks like.
Don did submit it
So,
to the finance committee.
So Article 9 is simply just to correct, it's just an error. This
Well,
is
yes,
in-
it's
this
not,
is-
it wasn't an error at the time that we accepted it. It's a revision to what Mass DEP believes we should have as our well resource protection area. So it was not an intentional error, so it's not really an error, but it's a correction to have us get the proper protection.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Motion to recommend Article 9.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So Article 9 is recommended.
And you've got the sketch to put in the book.
Yeah, I printed a copy for them. and did
Yeah,
that.
because they are just letter size. So I was afraid they're. And the way, I think Jesse, you marked it up with a different crosshatch. So even black and white is pretty readable.
Don, you don't have any other articles, right?
I'm asking Don to stay for just a moment, John, because we still have to go through amend articles 1 through 5. And 2 through 5 are enterprise funds, so if there's any questions on any of those, I don't anticipate them, but if there are. I would
Okay, so let's do Article 2 first. Trash.
Article 2 is being passed over. Article 3, 4, and 5 each have an amendment that's being brought forth, and that is to cover the settlement of the AFSCME contract in order to, it was the last contract that was negotiated, and so it affects the water, sewer, and stormwater enterprise. There will be some salary adjustments for the employees in each of those.
So this has to do with employee contracts.
Most of it. So if you look under Article 3, Water Enterprise, there's actually two pieces. Salary, 15,000 to be funded from water retained earnings. That is for the AFSCME contract. But there is also a second piece for water, which is for expenses. And we're asking the committee to vote up to $325,000 in water retained earnings to fund the FY22 operating budget for water. The reason I say up to 325,000 is we are still waiting on the final retained earnings certification from the Department of Revenue. Once that number is known, then we will be able to bring forth to town meeting a final number. Based on my estimate that we have submitted to DOR, if we vote up to 325,000, we should be okay. So we may come in with a lower number, but we won't exceed the number that you vote here this evening.
This is to fund the budget for fiscal year 22.
22.
The current year.
Current. Correct.
So what wasn't in the original budget that was passed 6 months ago?
It was in the original budget. We have, in the original budget, we have a $200,000 capital line item that I can use on capital as it comes up, as well as a $50,000 cushion in the professional services. So we have like a $250,000 cushion. All of that was needed to cover the extra costs that we incurred putting the water service renewal project, finishing the water renewal service project on South Main Street, which is time critical because that had to be done before they start the TIP construction project. So the bust is we had $400,000 appropriated for that work on South Main Street. That came in more in the neighborhood of $650,000 with extras. We added, looking at it, we added some replacement of all the spur lines, which was not in the original estimate. So as opposed to just doing the water services, all of the lines to the side streets are now new pipe. So that when the state finishes their project, we'll have good new pipe underneath all of that. So there's a really bad chance that there's anything that on the water system is going to break. So there was a big overrun on that project. And that's what we're making up now, because now it's a situation where we'll put the water departments that has still other smaller capital items that we would like to address that we're in tough shape without.
So is there a narrative on this or no?
No.
There's nothing written up because I'm not.
On amend Article 3, I'm sorry. Is that what you're asking for?
What's the 325,000? This is just additional spending that was not in the original budget.
That is correct. And as John was just
Right,
talking about,
but-
there was a cost overrun
No,
on a
but
project.
my point is there's this additional spend above the budget. It's as simple as that, right?
It is, yes,
Okay.
due to a cost overrun on a project.
Does anybody have any questions on this?
This will just about wipe out our retained earnings in that account this year.
For water?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm anticipating approximately $860,000 to be certified for water. And once we hear back from DOR, we'll know that for sure. Based on the previous spending, what we've allocated, what we're trying to do is utilize the remainder, the 340,335 to offset his existing operating budget for FY22.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions on Article 3? Is there a motion to recommend Article 3 for salaries in the amount of $15,335 from water retained earnings and expenses in an amount not to exceed $325,000, also funded from water retained earnings. Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So this is recommended 4-0.
Next one is sewer. Sewer is the settlement of the ASME contract in the amount of $5,363 to be funded from sewer retained earnings.
Any comments or questions on Article 4?
So moved.
Motion to recommend Article 4 in the amount of $5,363 funded from sewer retained earnings.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? Recommended 4-0.
Article 5, same issue, stormwater enterprise. At the settlement of the ASME contract.
Any comments or questions on Article 5?
How many people does this cover too?
Which one, stormwater?
Stormwater, yeah.
Stormwater, I believe we're at the 4 on the stormwater.
Up to 4 and stormwater. What are they doing? Just cleaning out catch basins?
That's sweeping.
Oh, sweeping comes out of that too? Okay.
Yeah, yes, so 2 sweepers and a truck out there. Yeah.
Motion to recommend $3,090, Article 5, from stormwater retained earnings. Second.
Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Recommended 4-0.
There's a new item that has been included for Article 7 that I'd like to go over with you guys.
Okay.
Beginning on page 5, using the handwritten numbers. So Article 7 is the capital under 50 in working with our MIS director, a new request.
Mary, are we done?
I think you're done. Yeah, you're all
Oh,
set.
sorry, Don.
Thanks, guys.
It's okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Jesse did a little longer ride home tonight.
Thanks, guys. In working with the MIS director, our MIS department has been moving forward with some cybersecurity improvements and enhancements here. We had applied for a state grant in order to undertake some equipment and service upgrades. We found out today, unofficially, that the state is not going to be able to fully fund the project as we had hoped for, but we are anticipating that they'll be able to partially fund it, but they haven't given us a commitment on the final allocation that they would award us, but we are making an estimate. The total cost of the project that Karen is asking for is $60,000 to do some upgrades to some network infrastructure. And if Karen was unfortunately, because this came up today, was unfortunately unavailable for tonight's conversation. If you guys have specific questions, we can table that until she's available.
So this is for 45,000
This is for 45,000.
from,
The funding source would be free cash, and it would be under Article number 7.
and this really is for multi-factor authentication
It is.
and firewall upgrades.
It is. And
My
endpoint
favorite
protection.
subjects.
I'm sorry?
My favorite subjects.
You always ask.
Yes.
I don't have to ask.
Well, we
I
told,
say you do always ask.
I know, but I don't have to this time.
No, you don't have
well, we
to.
told you we were working on it, John, and we were doing an assessment.
Nope,
And so this is the
I-
first phase.
Completely agree that this
Yeah.
is well worth the money.
Mhm. So we're bringing it forward because we'd like to get moving on this particular project. So we're asking for, if you look at Article 7 that I put in your book, your packet, it's on page 10. I have included this new item called MIS cybersecurity upgrades, 45,000 funding source of free cash.
So can these upgrades be done by the IT department, or do you have to hire people to implement?
She's working with a consulting firm.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions on these cybersecurity upgrades?
No.
Motion to recommend the $45,000 into Article 7 for IT security upgrades from free cash.
Do we want to do all parts?
Just this one item.
Okay,
You already have, Kevin.
okay, all right,
Motion to recommend.
second motion.
Second.
Hey, Julie, you
Julie, okay. All those in favor of the $45,000 for the security upgrades, aye.
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 Opposed? So this item is recommended 4-0. Yeah, she doesn't have to come in to explain. I'm just
That's
happy.
what I
I'm just
figured.
happy we're doing it.
Okay, all right. John, if I could just take a minute, I'd like to just bring something to the attention of the committee. If you look at Article 6 and Article 7, for presentation purposes, what I've done is there have been a couple of numbers that I have rounded up. The committee, I believe, voted the police vehicle and the fire department vehicle with some pennies based on the exact quote, but I've rounded it up to the nearest whole dollar, and I'm hoping the committee will be able to accept that friendly amendment.
Where are these?
Article 6 on page 4, so that the booklet will look like this.
Which items are you talking about?
So if you look at the top, the second one down, the fire vehicle, and the third one down, the police vehicle, were voted with some pennies at your previous meeting. You did, I'd like to do full numbers if we can go forward. You guys okay with that?
So what was it, like 662.23?
Yeah. something like that.
And we're gonna get in trouble for being off by 70 cents?
No, well,
All right.
I just, for
Let's
presentation,
move
I
on.
just don't want to see that coming back to me. All right,
So we really should
So
be using an amounts not to exceed and then
Yeah.
round up or something.
we're just
I-
gonna
I
have
wish
the department submit us full numbers going forward. Yeah,
Okay,
okay,
just round up, no more, up to 99 cents.
okay. All right, do you want to keep going in the booklet and then we'll come back to Article 1? All right, so the next item we've gotten through 6, we're at 8, 7,
So Don, since
let's see.
you're here, you want to, Dennis, should we do Article 10? Is that contentious? Maple Street zoning change?
That is one that the planning board's holding a public hearing, so I don't know that we want to get involved.
They already did?
I think they are having
it's
it this
Thursday.
Thursday.
They
have
had
to
the
hold
public
a
hearing
public-
or did not?
They will be on Thursday.
So let's postpone that one.
Yeah.
What, Article 11?
So that's a project, the town's leased land out in back of William Way. It's a 6 megawatt solar facility. Solar facilities in certain circumstances are exempt from paying taxes if they're using their power for certain things. So when we put these lease agreements together, we make sure that they're bound to pay taxes. So it's a payment in lieu of tax agreement that we had negotiated with the lease. Comes out to about a little over $200,000 per year for the lease and tax payment. So they'll have a 20-year agreement and they'll be paying taxes on that for the next 20 years in addition to the lease.
Where is this land?
It's, where the old 50s was,
What?
where the old 50s nightclub was, Pub and Club on 140 Pub and Club,
140 on the way to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's William Way. It's up the top and we own land in back of the last building there. So we had advertised, we got town meeting approval, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago to enter into a lease agreement for a solar facility. It takes these projects 3 years to put them together. This one's finally done. And,
The construction has not started.
oh no, it's almost done. Pretty
Almost
much
done.
Pretty
Okay.
much done. So they'll be paying taxes in the coming year. If this didn't pass at town meeting, we put them on the tax roll, and then there's always the threat that they could try and file for an exemption.
Okay.
So obviously, we don't want that to happen.
Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Motion to recommend Article 11, William Way Solar Tax Agreement.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recommended 4-0. We can do Article 12.
Article 12 is really a housekeeping article. We have 2 capital projects that were previously authorized via town meeting and authorized as borrowing articles. What happened is that the town did not borrow up to the limit that was authorized by town meeting. Projects have since been completed, and that this unused, it's authorized and unissued debt is still sitting on our books as a potential obligation. It's like a line of credit. And so what we're asking for is town meeting to rescind that borrowing authorization. It is no longer needed for either of these projects.
Does anybody have any comments or questions on Article 12?
Nope.
No.
Is there a motion to recommend Article 12, rescinding unissued borrowing authorizations in the total amount of $370,084?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Article 12 is recommended 4-0. Article 13, this is similar to previous articles in previous years, right?
It is, the difference with this, the reason we're bringing these 2 forward is in particular, the spending limit is being increased. On these 2 Board of Health revolving funds, the spending limit had not been modified or reviewed in a number of years. And the previous limit for the food inspections was $35,000. And the previous limit for the tobacco fund was $20,000. Board of Health has requested that both of those be increased to $50,000. So at the time that we're bringing this forward to address the spending limits, where I'm also proposing that we clean up some of the language and make it consistent with other revolving funds that are in our bylaw.
So the spending that goes on in these 2 funds are subject to approval, internal controls of the town?
They are. So what's happening and what precipitated the change for certainly the at least the food inspection is we have incurred significant cost over the last year. With COVID, there have been an extraordinary number of events that required our food inspector to go out and visit some of our properties. And we were bumping up against that limit of it's an annual fiscal limit. So we are limited to spending up to $35,000 out of this revolving fund for these purposes. And we cannot exceed that expenditure threshold. Given the volume that we've had, we were very close to exceeding that threshold. So as a precautionary measure.
So the 50,000 is an annual spending limit.
It's an annual expenditure limit. It is not, it has no impact on revenue. It is an expenditure limit.
Anybody have any comments or questions on Article 13?
Nope.
Motion to recommend Article 13.
So
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Article 13 is recommended 4-0.
So 14 we did, 15 we did. So 16.
Yeah, we didn't vote on it.
we didn't vote on 15.
You didn't, I have hold next to 15. You guys are gonna do the site visit.
Yeah.
Yep, but we talked about it earlier. Okay. So Article 16.
Article 16.
Okay, so in the handout that I gave you tonight, there are money amounts that are being included. We are asking for a transfer to the stabilization fund in the amount of $250,000 with the funding source being free cash.
So moved. Does this bring us back up to where we were 5 years ago?
We're getting very close. Did I give you an updated chart? It's in your book, Joe. Yes, we're
Going in the right direction.
Going in the right
absolutely.
direction.
We are
finally.
definitely going in the right direction. And the bond rating agencies appreciate that.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Motion to recommend Article 16, $250,000 from free cash. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Article 16 is recommended. 4-0. Article 17.
Article 17 is a request to transfer the amount of $500,000 from free cash to the group health insurance trust fund.
Did we do one of these last year?
We increased the budget. If you recall, we had somebody come down and gave a presentation.
Oh, so
on
that
it.
was the budget line item.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is get, we've had a rough year from an experience perspective. We're self-insured, so it's been a difficult year. I mean, there are ebbs and flows with
So claims have been higher.
claims. We've had some significant claims where people have significant loss, but we do have a stop loss that kicks in at 175,000, but we're still on the hook for that
But
first
so we've had
175,000. Quite a few
situations
people.
where we've hit 175 at the individual level.
Quite a few.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a few, which is why you buy the stop loss insurance. We had 4 or 5 years where we had tremendous experience, but the last 2, not so much. So this is what is being recommended by our consultants. Obviously, it stays in the trust fund unless it's utilized.
So do you know if other towns in the area are having the same issue with health insurance? Do you know?
Well, this has more to do with the health of individuals. and
Right, but
Yeah, no, so it's, what we had 3 or 4 really good years where our stop loss consultants are coming in saying, knock on wood, I just came from such and such a town where I brought bad news. Now they're going to those other towns saying, you're doing good, and maybe we aren't doing so
Okay.
good. So there
I
is
can
some
tell you, the
volatility.
residents having problems are belong to West Suburban. We're toying with the idea of switching over to Maya.
No kidding.
Well, Fallon's out the window.
Yeah.
Tufts is merged with Harvard Pilgrim. Harvard Pilgrim is going up substantially. So, it's like Blue Cross, because Maya's got like 114 communities in their group.
Yeah.
West Suburban now is down to 11.
Yeah.
8 or 11 from about 23. So
anybody have any comments or questions on Article 17?
No,
Motion to recommend Article 17,
So
transfer the health insurance fund $500,000 from free cash. Is there a second?
so moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recommended. 4-0. Article 18.
And the last one is Article 18, which is a transfer of $125,000 from free cash to the compensated absences fund. And as we look to see some of our longer term employees retiring, we are trying to address that liability and paying out some of their accrued benefits over time so that we're not.
This is the liability that does not increase for most employees now, right? This is a
Correct.
leftover from decades ago.
Yeah.
And we're coming close to the end of it. It's frozen. It's now frozen for the management team within the police department. The last contract that was frozen in place where it was. So the liability still exists for some employees, but it's capped. Some employees have a 30-day buyback when they retire and leave the town, but that's the extent of it. Whereas years ago, it was an unlimited accrual.
So how many people have unlimited?
3, but no one now.
It's
It was frozen 3 years ago, so there's no one that has it any longer. But there were 3 that were accruing on an unlimited basis until 3 years ago.
So it's 3, but that's not increased, that liability
No
is-
longer
is
increased.
frozen. All right.
Yeah.
So Article 18, motion to recommend $125,000 transferred to compensated absences from funding source
Second.
free cash. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? So opposed. So Article 18 is recommended. 4-0.
And we still have to do Article 1. We skip over
Wait,
that.
we still have Article 19 as well, Joe.
Yeah.
We'll keep going to the end first and cycle back. Article 19 is unpaid bills from a prior fiscal year.
Do we have one?
Yes, we have several. It's in the handout that I gave you this evening, very last page. Really descriptive chart.
Motion to recommend $288.41 from free cash to fund and pay 5 separate invoices from the prior year.
So move.
Second. All those in
Second.
favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Recommended 4-0. Right beside,
That we skipped over Article 8.
right beside.
Article
that.
8 was Larry's article, the petitioned article, and I believe he's chosen to not come in and
Yeah, he said if we needed him to come in, he would, but.
I thought he wanted to come in.
Yeah, and then
He changed his mind.
essentially what he said, he would only come in, he would come in if you wanted him to. His public hearing is going to be fulfilled with the planning board.
So this was subject to a public hearing.
Yes.
Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns about Article 8?
The planning board is gonna handle it. Pass over. But take no action.
We still have to make a recommendation.
Pass over.
Did you say the planning board,
Is going to hold a public hearing.
they will hold? a public
They are
hearing?
holding a public hearing.
So we should, I don't really like to vote before we have a public hearing, before they have a public hearing, so let's defer
We
this.
can defer to
Yep.
next Tuesday or the night of the meeting.
do we know when that meeting?
I believe they're hearing that on Thursday.
Yes, I did reach out to Amy.
Oh, great, so then you might have your answer for Tuesday's meeting, that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so what do we have left?
Article 1, I believe is that, according to your notes, Tina, is that everything?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, Article 1 is to amend the current year FY '22 operating budget. We are requesting an amendment of $326,421. And this is the funding source is raise and appropriate. What we have, since the last time we got together at town meeting and since the last time we've spoken, our assessors have submitted our new growth for FY '22, and those new growth numbers have come in stronger than we had anticipated. So there is capacity in raise and appropriate to cover these additional appropriations that we are requesting. I've given you descriptions for each of these. I'm happy to answer any questions rather than going through each individual one, whatever your preference is.
What is the negative 55? Oh,
Sure,
that's, oh, within police, that's staying within police.
Yeah.
it is, and we do this every year
Yeah,
in
all right.
November.
What's a Zoom? Oh, Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom,
All right.
we actually have someone managing those meetings for us.
And the $200,000?
So that is, we're requesting a transfer to the Capital Investment Trust Fund, which is a fund that we've you guys are familiar with it. What I'm asking for is that we are allocating some funding to that trust fund in anticipation of funding future fire apparatus. As you know, we converted our ambulance receipts to a general fund receipt a couple of years ago, and with the expectation that we would make sure that we were setting aside funding for future fire apparatus. And so what I'm doing is requesting that we transfer $200,000 into that fund with that expectation of a future ambulance replacement.
So this is for the fire, but not fire equipment. This is an ambulance.
This would be for a capital purchase coming out of the capital.
Could theoretically
trust
be
fund.
used for anything of a capital nature, however, as Mary's saying, we
This is the plan.
anticipate a need for an ambulance, and we're no longer setting aside funds from those ambulance receipts reserved. He doesn't have that ability to.
I'm not
put
that
that
luxury
out
anymore.
Almost
sorry?
like, just saying.
Nope, this is us being proactive to plan for that future event.
So
The-
this is to purchase an ambulance in the future, and this is part of the cost, not the full cost.
Correct. There is one item on here that I would like to draw your attention to, which is a new department called under Town Common, number 632. So we are requesting a $15,000 appropriation for the maintenance of the Town Common. What had happened is the Bank of America ATM station that is located at the Town Common. Town had been receiving lease payments from Bank of America, and those lease payments were covering the cost of maintenance. They were going into a special revenue fund. We have been notified that Bank of America has terminated that lease and that particular facility will be no more.
So they're gonna take it out.
They're going to take it out. Yeah.
So they want to step in and replace them?
No, that type of kiosk is now a dinosaur. People, unless you're in the city or something, everyone wants to drive through. It's not handicap accessible. It's very old, so it has no real value. So take it out, put some parking in, fix the
Well,
sidewalk.
that's it.
Yeah. And
Who's gonna destroy and remove?
They do.
They
Bank of
will.
America.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I wonder if they're taking out the one at Market Basket.
Not that I know of. It's possible, but it's a little bit more accessible, and
higher volume traffic.
this one has very little volume.
I think I'm the only one in town hall who uses it.
I think it was self-going.
So any other questions or comments on Article 1?
No.
Motion to recommend $326,421 from raise and appropriate for the items listed.
So move.
So moved.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item Article 1 is recommended. 4-0.
Yeah, you got warrant, about your other. You have a ledger
Yeah,
as
and
well?
I have the minutes as well.
Motion to recommend the October invoice, $318.32.
So move.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 4-0.
Approve the meeting minutes for Wednesday, October 6th.
Second.
Any comments or questions on the meeting minutes? Motion to recommend, motion to approve. We already have a motion to approve. All those in favor of approving the minutes for the meeting of October 6th?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. 4-0. All set?
All set.
So the next thing we have is Saturday morning, maybe 9 o'clock, and then we have a meeting on Tuesday.
I'll wait to talk to Dennis and Mary tomorrow to confirm the 9 AM Saturday, and I'll
Yeah.
send an email to everybody, and then Tuesday at 5 for both meetings.
At 5 o'clock.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a
Sounds
plan.
And that'll be it. We should be done, right?
We should be done.
That'll be a wrap.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Oh,
So
yes.
moved.
Oops.
Second.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.